Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Jamie and Marcus here.
Welcome to Test of Thyme,
Absolutely.
where we share our love, passion, and hustle for the restaurant industry. This is Jamie and Marcus. We own Aroma Time Bistro in Ellenville, New York since 2003. Been around for about 20 years.
Yes, we have.
And we are here to drop some of our stories, knowledge, inspiration, and hopefully some of our success tips to help other restaurateurs.
Absolutely.
And today's episode number 9.
Yes, it is.
And we are going to talk about the number one issue in this industry, which is
Staffing, finding staff, finding qualified, good staff, finding people that help grow your business. And that has been something that we've been dealing with for 20 years. Just bringing in staff that are reliable, that are hardworking, that want to learn, all of those types of things. So
we've done a good job.
We absolutely have
done a good job. So hopefully we can share some knowledge on what we've done to help other people, because we really don't complain that we don't have enough staff. We don't complain. I mean, you can always find something wrong with your staff.
Absolutely.
You can easily walk in and say, this is wrong, that's wrong, and find anything that's going wrong. It's harder to catch people doing something right for most people.
Yes.
Yeah, for most bosses.
Right.
So most bosses, there's so many topics on this. There's really so many topics on this, from being a coach versus a boss, from always recruiting, from the training aspect, just from the whole thing. But let's talk about the interview process.
Absolutely.
Since that's what we did all day today.
We did.
Or felt like all day we did the interview process.
We did. I feel like I've been interviewing people for a couple days now and setting up interviews, and we are looking for some more employees in our front of the house. Our back of the house right now seems to be really good, but we kind of flip-flop sometimes, where we're looking for front of the house when we're not, when we're good in the kitchen. We're looking for kitchen when we're good in the dining room. So we seem to flip-flop back and forth.
We have some A players in the kitchen right now.
Absolutely.
Like, we could open up 7 days a week for what we have in the kitchen. We've got some, and I know it's too much staff, but it's hard to be like, well, I've got all these A players that want to do. So it's like, I'm finding work for them. We're making the menu bigger. We're doing things that are more labor intensive. So we're adding extra work because I want to keep them busy. I don't want to lose these A players.
Right.
And even though, like, when you look at it, like, we really don't need an extra A player.
I know we were talking about that today, right? Like, not needing them. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what can we do to bring more specials in, to make the menu more exciting, do this, so we can actually utilize that A player and turn that A player, that extra A player, into profit.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the interview process. First of all, we like to recruit even when we don't need anybody.
Well, you always need more people. You never know what's going to happen from day to day.
Perfect.
And that's the biggest thing. You never know what's going to happen. We just lost an employee that we'd had for 9 months. We thought she would be here for a while, and all of a sudden she turned around and she gave her 2-week notice. So.
Right. But prior to that, we hired somebody that was totally extra, that we were finding work to do. Right. She was working in the office. She was helping with the Airbnbs. We even put her in the kitchen a shift or so because she could work in the kitchen.
And she was gung-ho, and she came to us and she wanted to work for us.
Right.
And we were like, okay, we don't have a position, but let's find somewhere to put you for now. And then as we get busier, we'll put you in the other position that you really wanted.
So she had literally cross-trained in every single position and could do every position. And then all of a sudden, she was only with us a month, and then she gets up and quits.
Right.
Some issues that became our issues, and then they can't work here anymore. So we're like, okay, no big deal, because she was just extra. But then somebody else has a medical issue,
right,
and such, and all of a sudden they gave notice.
Right.
So now we're legitimately down one person.
Right.
2 people quit.
Right.
So
or 2 people left.
They
didn't really quit for bad reasons.
No,
they left. Yes.
All right, so we putting that out on
But now
Indeed.
but I think the most important thing for us is that we decide to hire the right person now. That is really important. So go ahead. You put
So I had a
out.
conversation with another restaurant owner recently, and they were calling for a reference. And I said, like, how long do you want from this person? Are you happy hiring somebody who's gonna get you 3 months, or do you want somebody to get you 1 or 2 years? And they go, Marcus, I'm just concerned about 3 months. And I'm like, wow, like somebody admitting that they don't care how long they get out of an employee. And 3 months is nothing to bring somebody in to train them to get them to speed to think like
You're going to
I'll
start all over again
start
and
the
get
whole
in
process
3 months.
again.
Yeah.
Folks, it is your fault that you're not hiring better people. You might claim that people aren't applying for your jobs. You might claim that there's no workforce out there. We're in the same situation as everybody else, but we've built a culture, and we've just I think we've made a great workplace.
We have.
I think overall,
And
is there
culture is very important to us. And that was a big key of what we talked about today in a lot of our interviews.
100%.
We had, I don't know, 5 interviews today at 4. Yeah. And that was a big part of what we talked about is culture and how important that is to us. And you can feel when somebody walks in the door if they're going to be a good fit for your culture.
You
Would you
can.
agree?
You can. Yeah, you can. You can, because we're at a point now where we've made our statement on our quality of food, the farm to table, the health aspects, the good bar, and people apply to us because they want, like we had an interview yesterday and she was so excited. She's not okay. She's an A player, but she can't work a certain day, and she has limitations in the summer, and she's leaving in August.
Right.
And we're like, this A player's so
Perfect.
gung ho.
So gung ho.
She's like, I'm ready to jump back there now and make drinks. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that. Never heard of that brand. I'm so excited. What are that? I can't, she's like, I'm ready to come in and make drinks right now. Like, and we're like, oh my gosh. She's like, I'll do your training, this, and that. And we're like, but there's limitations. So for us to hire somebody knowing we're only gonna get 3 months out of them, that's a tough one. And I think it's a talent to be able to look at people that are super qualified and say, but you're not everything I need, so I have to pass on you. It's tempting.
It is. And I said, well, can we find something for her to do?
Right.
What can we find for her to do? But the truth is that no matter what way we look at it, she's leaving in August.
Yes.
Right. And so we can use her from now till August, maybe not in a set position, maybe moving her around, maybe finding things for her to do.
Excuse me. We're both tired. It's been a long day.
But is it worth it to put somebody in that type of position?
So I would hire her to come in to write a cocktail menu, get us to the next level,
Right.
create a training program for the next level, and train other people for the next level.
Right.
I don't think I can hire her to work a set
position
and rely upon her for that.
Right. So, so our interviews today were very interesting and very different, right? We had 4, right? We had one yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, one yesterday.
Yep.
Or the night before. No, Sunday.
2 yesterday. 2, whatever it was. We did 4 interviews.
But anyway, so, when you look at all of these different employees and you look at the qualities that they all have, and they probably all will make good employees or will work. Some will work harder than others. You have to look at a couple of things when they walk in the door, right? Do they smile? Are they friendly? Will they fit your culture? And those were all things that we kind of looked at when they walked in the door, and then we sat down with them, and you just didn't get that feel from some of them.
So last year when we had a certain employee apply a year ago, she sat at the bar, filled in an application, and bought a glass of wine.
Yes, she did.
She bought a glass of wine, and she looked at the wine list, and she was like, but the wine, she was, I'd like a glass of wine. So immediately I thought, well, gee, here's somebody who is into wine. This is perfect because we have a great wine list. For me, that was a great sign. People might say, "Oh my gosh, how dare somebody order a glass of wine during they come in to fill out,"
Right. Fill out an
But
application.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wow. So then my coach in his office, they have alcohol.
Mm.
There's alcohol. There's a beer cooler. We've been
Yeah,
in there
that's right.
in Vegas. So he has alcohol and everything in his office. And he goes, if I've hired people that are drunks, it's my fault. Like if somebody can't responsibly have a beer and work, then something's wrong. And me as the boss, gonna get rid of them. Like I wouldn't hire drunks. I wouldn't hire people that. So it's not.
What is your point there?
The problem is not the alcohol.
Right.
The problem is what you put up with.
Right.
Right. And what the employee thinks they can get away with. So here's somebody who orders a glass of wine. I'm like, okay, they know wine. They like wine. This is a perfect fit for us. So that was like a checkbox. Like, okay, great. She filled one of those requirements that we need. So back to today. So we were in Bill Glazer or Bill Glazer. So Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer, Glazer Inside Circle. So we were in, we've seen Bill Glazer speak several times. And remember the one time I think it was in Philadelphia or DC, he spoke about the interview process. Do you remember that?
I do.
And he was like, you just aren't asking the best questions.
You have to ask good questions.
You have to ask good questions. You have to keep following up, and you have to back somebody into the corner. So if somebody says, well, I was the line cook at Jack's Bistro, you would then say, great. What time did you come into work every day for Jack's Bistro?
And what did you do there?
What did you do? How many people did you work with? How many omelets were you cooking in the mornings? Did you crack all your eggs at one time?
If you left that job, if we called your boss from that job, what would they say about you?
What would they say about
Did you leave on good terms? So there's a lot of questions that you can follow up on that will get you the answers that you are looking for.
The resume is basically to how do I want to say this?
See what experience they've had.
It's for them to fabricate and highlight their accomplishments.
Can highlight, right?
It's their highlight their accomplishments and hide their failures is what a resume is.
So for us, there's probably certain industries that you don't need to be a good interviewer to be a good employee. But for us, you need a good interviewer because that interviewer is going to be in front of your guests all the time talking. And they're a representation of your business and your culture and what you're doing, at least in our restaurant business.
Unless they're positioned back of the house.
Unless they're back of the house. But right? today we were interviewing front of the house.
So I would say everybody who walked in the door, nobody was stupid.
No.
Nobody was stupid.
They were all smart.
Were they all fit for our job?
No,
they weren't.
No.
Not at all. But they were all smart in their own capacity. And so what are some of the questions we like to ask? So first of all, back to the thing about just narrowing in and pushing them into a corner. Just keep pushing them. Like going back to breakfast. How many eggs did you crack every day? What time is breakfast? Who's responsible for cleanup? Who's responsible for writing the menu? How did you poach an egg? Because anybody can say, oh, I cook breakfast at Jack's Bistro, but what does cooking breakfast at Jack's Bistro really mean?
Right.
Until you start finding and probing in. So what are some other questions that we like to ask?
So we ask questions like, what are your 6-month goals? What is your year goals? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of months? We ask questions like
the goals are good. I like that question. Because some people
what are
know
your
right
hobbies?
Away. Some people know right away. And if they're more specific, you're like, oh wow, that's great. But everybody always wants to make more money. They always want more time with their family. So those are just general goals. I like to ask what books have they read last?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes will surprise me.
What are your hobbies?
What are your hobbies? What do you enjoy outside of your professional skills?
Mm-hmm.
I think is a good question. What professional skills do you like to use? I love that question.
Yes.
Because what you find is you're interviewing people that are good people, but you're interviewing them for the wrong job.
Right.
And you've all of a sudden
sometimes you can find out that they don't really want to be a server or a busser or work in the dining room. They want to do something else. And maybe they'd be a better fit for your business in another capacity.
They're just applying for jobs they need to make money.
Right.
But all of a sudden you can find out this person knows how to do great office work
or social media or take pictures or Or right.
Right. They're just applying for a job to make money. And you might think that, hey, wow, this person is not really what I'm looking for. So what else do you like to do? I love these questions because it really gets, if you could get paid for a skill right now, what would that skill be?
Yes.
And you're like, wow. Then once you start talking about things they love, they're a totally different person.
Yes. They
They start
open up, they start
smiling.
smiling, they start enjoying the interview and talking and looking for approval and all of those sorts of things, which is nice.
Right. Yeah. So then it relaxes them.
Yes.
Let's see what else on this.
Ooh.
I mean, we have a whole list of questions. And I hear people like saying, well, I like to ask, like, what kind of animal would you be? I don't know what that accomplishes.
Well, it gets them to talk, I guess.
It gets them to talk. I don't know what the.
But what kind of animal would you be?
I don't. I don't want to put thought into that. I want to put thought into the skills that are used for the job and me improving myself.
Well,
I don't.
Maybe they want to know if you're going to be a kangaroo and hop around your job. Maybe they want to know if you're going to be a cat and meow.
So if I had to
or a dog and bark and growl,
if I had to be an animal, I would say it would have to be some type of a bird.
Bird.
I have dreams of flying. I have dreams all the time of me flying, having this flying superpower. And I just think that a bird would fit me for that because a bird flies.
That's a good
animal. But that has nothing to do with my job, I don't think.
Well, maybe you like to look from above. Maybe that's what that means.
Maybe I like to soar like an eagle.
Right. So you never know. I mean,
attack like a falcon.
Well, that's probably true. You are an attacker like a falcon. You like just swoop in and
like a peregrine falcon,
prey.
like a peregrine falcon, 90 miles an hour.
Yes.
Come swarming in.
Swooping in,
buzzing in.
Yes. Let's see what.
So we have peregrine falcons here on the mountain.
You're getting off.
Not to change the subject.
Are you totally?
But you've heard them buzz by before because we've been out hiking, and you can hear them coming, and they're just buzzing, and all of a sudden you see this flash go by. There's a peregrine falcon at 90 miles an hour buzzing past you.
Yes.
So I like to skip that question. I thought it was cool at some point when I first heard of the question.
We've used a lot of different interview questions, skills that we've learned over the years, and I actually think our interviews today were probably some of the best.
I agree.
So I think we've definitely increased, and I think the more practice you get, the more prepared you are, the better you're going to be at interviewing people.
I think something super important that a lot of people don't do, and we're guilty of it sometimes too, is not handing them the job description. We're 50-50 on that.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Or we send it to them after the fact when they come to work for us. Yeah.
I think a good time to talk to them about it is in the beginning when you're interviewing.
Well, I think it's when you hire them because they have expectations and now they know what your expectations are. So I think it's more when you hire them when they should get it rather than in an interview. Because you're talking, because you're going to talk about you're talking in an interview, you're going to talk about the things that are required of them, and now it's in writing and they get it once they're hired.
I see what you're saying.
Right? Like you're not going to if they didn't get the job, why would you go over what their job duties are going to be?
Well, you're sort of having the job in the interview.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So all right. What were your low points in the last previous job? What would you do differently in a job? I love that question.
If you went back there, what would you do differently?
Yes.
Is there anything that you feel that you could have done better or that you did really well?
I heard something in somebody else was saying that they don't like to look at the resumes of people they're going to interview. They like a separate committee to do that because when John or Jennifer or Joe walks in and sits in front of them, they don't want any preconceived notions of the person's accomplishments or lack of accomplishments.
Interesting.
They want to make their decisions based upon eagerness in the actual interview itself versus, oh, Joe, you worked for this great restaurant, this great chef, this great, look at this, and just assume the fact that they know that.
Right.
Because I was taught by one of my mentors, Peter Timmons. He goes, you go work for one of these Michelin 3-star places, nobody's ever going to care what you did there.
Yeah.
No, you can go wash dishes for Marco Pierre White, for
But if they
Thomas Keller.
see the name on your
They just see
resume,
Thomas Keller on your
Yeah.
resume. They
they're
just
like, "Oh, you work
no.
for Thomas Keller."
Right, they're not gonna.
They don't care what you
They
did.
don't care.
No, they don't
So
care.
I know that trick.
Yeah, and
I know.
you know what? You can't really tell much from a resume at
No.
all. It's always in person. It's always, how the person is sitting, how their demeanor, will they fit in, how they talk, all of that stuff all makes a difference in the hiring process.
Some people
So.
swear that they follow the person out to their car to make sure their car is clean.
Oh,
I've heard that from many people.
I've heard that
See
before
what kind
too,
of car they
actually.
drive,
Yeah.
see if it's clean,
Yeah.
see if they're organized, right?
But the more you do interviews, the better you're going to get. The more you do them, the more comfortable you're going to feel.
I like that because when I was a young chef, I would go on interviews to practice.
Yes.
You as the boss should be interviewing people so you can practice.
Yeah, we should do that
Even
more.
if you know the candidate's not good when they sit down or in the first couple minutes, go through the whole process of the interview because it's only going to help you become a better interviewer.
Exactly. So
I'd like to close with really the best interviewers on the job come work a shift.
So that is also required. So you're not hired right away. You come in, you work a shift, and we talk about it because you might love it. You might hate it. It might be for you. It might not be for you. And the best way to find out if you fit in or how they fit in, a new employee, is to watch them work and see them interact with everybody. So
100%.
Yes.
And I always tell them, you're not going to hurt our feelings.
Nope.
If you don't like it, we would like
you to be a guest.
We'd like you to be a guest. That's
So,
no problem.
Not a problem at all.
You're always welcome as a guest. Doesn't have to work out as a boss employee
Yeah.
relationship. So,
Absolutely.
Yep.
So all right. So those are some of our tips. This is Jamie and Marcus, and
restaurantgrowthsecretsuniversity.com.
check it out.
We have a great training program over there that you can train your staff virtually, held them accountable. It's just a great program. We've been using it for years. A lot of top companies across the U.S. use it. Tony Robbins, General Motors uses this. We've adapted it for the restaurant industry specifically, and there's a lot of information on it over at restaurantgrowthsecretsuniversity.com. Also on that website, just lots of great video content and learning things that you can, we want to help you. We want to help you create your dream restaurant.
Absolutely.
So go check it out.
Test of Thyme, love, passion, and the hustle in the restaurant business. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, however you are tuning into us. We really appreciate it. And we will catch everybody soon.
Excellent. Goodbye.